What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. My name is Justin Talbott, and I'm going to be your host for today. We are right here on my YouTube channel, also known as Your Network is Your Net Worth. There's been some rebranding and some changes, but I just want to get right into the show because I got a guest today that, as a realtor, Drew, I deal with a lot of people that come to me and my wife, and the number one issue that holds them in the way from being able to purchase a home is credit. That's why I wanted to bring you on today, because you're the CEO of Trinity Solutions. And I just wanted to be able to educate my audience a little bit about your services that you provide, because I do have a couple people in the pipeline right now. That's one thing where, hey, do you have somebody for credit? So I just wanted you to introduce yourself and a little bit about your company. And I love it because I look at you as a tool in the toolbox to help my clients. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Drew.
Appreciate you having me on the show, Justin. And yes, my name's Drew Smith, own Trinity Solutions USA, and I like to say I'm the credit guy. Very, very simple. What I do is I help people by educating, motivating, and more importantly, I negotiate for you as far as to get you guys into a position where you can get a home or a car or whatever it is that you're trying to.
Let me ask you this, Drew. What I want to do today is I really want to be able to leave people with some practical things. What do you say is like the most common fixable problem that people can like really start working on when it comes to their credit?
That's real easy. Credit utilization is always number one. First thing that I look at when someone comes in, they sit down for a consultation. Drew, I need to be at such and such a score. I'm doing what I can do. I'm making my payments. I don't know why my score is where it is. So we'll pull up a credit report. We'll do a consultation, and I'll see their cards maybe at 50% utilization, 60% utilization, 100% utilization. And what that means in layman terms is you ran your credit cards up. Ballpark
Right,
figure
right.
for every 10% that you're revolving your credit, meaning, letting it go the next month, on average, you drop about 10 FICO points. So if I pull up your credit report and I see you're at 60% utilization because you wanted to keep the money in the bank, you didn't want to pay down that Capital One card, well, you probably cost yourself about 50 points. And that's a real quick, fast, easy way of getting your score up. Pay those people.
A lot of times, though, we hear that we could hire credit repair services to get these things taken off. So, what are some common things in your industry that you run into that you have to like undo from other credit repair companies?
That we have to undo for other credit repair people. How much time do we got, brother? All right, listen. A lot of times what we do is people will come to us. I've been with, and I can't name names, obviously. They all have higher attorney retainers than I do, but I've been with this company. I've been with that company. I've been with this company. All they've done is send a bunch of letters. I'm paying them $100 a month, and nothing's done. All right. I'll give you more information and leadership in a 20-minute phone call by getting to the root of the issue. Then these guys aren't sending out letters every month. All right. I'll share a little bit of my history, and that'll tell you why I go this route with it. I used to be the bad guy. I ran collection agencies for about 15 years. So I used to throw away, I don't mean to say it in a meanwhile, but those letters that are sent in, those magic letters, so to speak, they don't all get to where you think they do. Long story short, if you have an issue and your problem is you owe someone, I get to the root of the problem. You owe someone, let's fix the fact that you owe someone. I used to speak bill collector very well. I used to be one. So we go to them, we contact who you owe, we negotiate a way of getting those items removed from their account. It's called a pay for delete, super common. And you get the results that you're looking for, which is those things removed from your credit report within a 30 to 45 day time frame. Rather than, Mr. Drew, I've been waiting for 6-7 months for this letter to work. Well, all the money that you paid those people, you could have just negotiated this file and got the account paid for and removed by now. That's what I like to bring to people. Yeah. If you think there's an issue of what we got to change, you got to change mindset.
What inspires you to start Trinity Solutions? Tell us a little bit about the brand and how that got started.
Well, like every young boy, I dreamed of negotiating debt as a 10-year-old. No, I'm kidding. I fell into the industry. I fell into the industry. I came out of college. I was a stockbroker. For whatever reason, that company went into a not so great place. The fellow that owned the company at the time said, well, you're a very hard worker. You're good speaking with people. I own a collection agency. You just had a newborn. Why don't you help me out and help manage it for a while? It was in like 1995. Well, turns out I was good at what I did. I was able to help a lot of people get out of debt. I was able to help negotiate a lot of people to a better spot. I just started learning the industry from that side of the fence. As I got older, my exploits changed. I helped people negotiate out of MCAs and business accounts and so on and so forth. And then I just got to the point where around COVID happened, I said, you know what, I think it's time to really go back and give back and help people out as far as to give them a second chance. Because that's really what credit repair is in my chance. It's a second chance at finance. COVID helped them get through their issues. So that's really when we started, Coach.
What did you have to go through in your personal journey? Take me back to before you worked for the bill collectors. Like, were you in debt so you had to educate yourself?
Brother, let me tell you a story. Now you want to hear the story? Here's the story. Like we said, I started out when I came out of college. I was a stockbroker, 25 years old, barely moved out of house. I'm making very nice living at that time. I'll just put it that way. 6 digits in the mid-90s went a whole lot further than 6 digits went now. I'll put it to you that way. Well, when that industry went away, I went from making 100 and some odd thousand as a kid with cars and this and that type of lifestyle to I'm working as a bill collector. I'm making maybe 40 grand. That's a big drop.
Jeez.
So, hey, guess what I had? I had a lot of bills that went to the wayside. So when I tell people the steps that, this is going to help you get from here to here, it's not theory. I'm not making things up. I was my first client. Okay. And that's something that I tell everybody. Listen, I'm telling you what I had to go through. I've been on that side of the phone. You're getting the benefit of the knowledge that I had to use to get from point A to where I'm at now. So, it's a testimony. It's a testimony. You learn how by doing for yourself.
So let's say I have somebody that comes to me and they need help with their credit to buy a house. What is next? How long is the process? Let's 5 buyers and we have a goal of getting them into their first house in 6 months. Is that something realistic?
The answer always is, it depends on you. And here's what I mean by that. Anybody that comes up and tells you just from looking at it, okay, you're going to start with me, you start with me today, I'll have you finished in 30 days, is absolutely lying to you. Every case is different. Okay, and I can tell you a ballpark. Normally, if you walk in and we go through a consultation with you, it's going to depend on what I see. Every client's different. That's why every client gets a specific consultation. If we look at your credit report, and like we said in the beginning, all I see is high credit utilization, my answer to you is going to be, all right, your score is going to go right where you need it to be if you pay off those cards. I can't tell you how long it's going to take you to pay off your credit cards. So there's no way anybody can give you a date for that. Now, if I look on your credit report and I see there's some issues that were sold to Portfolio Recovery, Midland Financial, IC Systems, usual Resurgent Capital, the usual standard debt buyers, that's something I can tell you. All right, I can negotiate for you. Odds are I can have an answer for you in up to under 72 hours. Once that's done, I'm going to come to you and say, Justin, guess what? That $1,000 Capital One card, they're willing to take $400 to delete from your credit report. You get excited? Awesome. Pay the people. If you give them that $400, typically it'll be a 30 to 45 day turnaround, usually a lot closer to 30, and it'll be removed, deleted, poof, from your credit report. When that happens, you get your points back and you're able to go move on with your life and get your pre-approvals or whatever you're looking to get. Okay. Now, if it's a situation where we pull up the credit file and it's a client that's placed a judgment against you or something along those lines, there may be a little bit more time frame associated with it. Maybe now we're looking closer to 60. If we have a client that doesn't want to settle, now it goes back to where we have to take other methods to try and get things cleared, such as prove the debt, do this, do that. Those may take a little bit more time. So it all depends on A, your pocketbook, B, what the client says they're able and willing to do, and C, what we can research up on the debt to see if it's too old. They can't prove it, out of statute or whatever. Everything's different, but you'll always get a very good time frame within the first, once we look at it and see exactly what it is. Don't let anybody give you a one-size-fits-all answer.
There's a lot of apps coming up, new softwares coming up. What would you say about, those different services that are now kind of trending?
Okay. You're right. It's a new trend. You're right. I'll give you a little bit of information from the inside. The reason why a lot of these people are doing the AI and there's a lot of DIY kits, do it yourself, so on and so forth, is because of coming in trying to change the rules in credit repair. They're going and trying to figure out ways around the TSR, which is a whole big book that no one's deciphered yet anyway. But so they're trying to make a lot of efforts where they can still give the information and the education, but have their hands away from the actual implication, if that makes sense. They're going to teach you how to do it yourself. You do it, and so on and so forth. Okay. It's a great way to do it. I get it. I understand the concept. Everybody wants to stay out of trouble. That's why what I do is a little bit different. I'm not the letter writing guy. You're going to come to me. I'm going to negotiate and solve the end of your problem. And we're paying people. We're not out there killing trees and writing letters that, don't really do too much of nothing. But it's not a bad idea. I'm not against it, but that's the reason why they came out. It's more of a background thing versus actual effectiveness.
Right. I've personally joined platform myself because as a realtor, it's like, okay, well, maybe I can use this provide value to my client. Feel like that's never the case because what you're saying, there actually has to be dialogue with debt collector or the actual company. Let's just say T-Mobile.
Mhm.
Sometimes that debt will get sold to one of those debt collecting companies, right?
Mhm.
So you still negotiate with those debt collector companies. You only negotiate with the company.
Of course you can. Matter of fact, that makes it even easier for the client, to be honest with you. When you have an account that is still held by the original creditor, you're still kind of held to a specific situation. The best that you're going to get from that account is a paid zero balance charge off or something along those lines, which doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot to help you. Now, if it advances to where it's been sold to another company, it's just looking at how a mortgage company would look at it. By the time they sell it, it shows as a zero balance debt on your credit report. Okay, because someone else has bought it. T-Mobile can't show $1,000 balance and Midland Financial show $1,000 balance. That's not going to work. So on your credit report, according to the mortgage company, when it's sold, they'll see a zero balance for T-Mobile. Great. They're happy with that. But now that debt's showing on a different thing. It's showing on Midland now. When we go and do a pay for delete for that with Midland, now that entire trade line showing that there's money there would delete. And that just leaves a zero balance account. Mortgage companies love it. Now they can go through it. They're not showing anything negative. They're happy with that. Okay, so to be honest with you, it works out a little bit better for your behalf. Because again, when we're dealing with the debt buying companies, they're buying these accounts for maybe 6 cents on the dollar. The settlement rate that they would have is usually a lot lower than with the original creditor. So it helps you out.
So that is a good thing then, because that was like my next question was if your debt gets sold to a debt collector, that's kind of a good indicator that it's going to be easier to settle.
I'd say so. I'd say so, definitely. At least we know that way we can get things cleared. We know that that specific trade line can come off. And again, the settlement parameters are usually lower, right? Because they paid less for the account. In a perfect world, do I say it's a good thing? No, and a good thing is it never gets there in the first place. You pay the original creditor before it gets to
Right.
collections. But if it goes to where it's sold, it's not the end of the world.
How much does late payments affect somebody's credit report?
Huge. 35% of your entire score is based on your credit history. Credit history is just a very basic way of it's a ratio of on-time payments versus late payments. Real simple. Making your payments on time is the biggest thing that you can do for yourself. All right. Auto pay is your friend, guys. At least make the minimum payments on everything. It keeps you out of harm's way. One late payment, if you have a decent score, could crush you. A $30 late payment could drop 40 to 50 points off your score. And the higher your score is, the more that one little 30-day late drops you down. So best believe, make your payments on time. Well, I'm an old man, so I have old man sayings. You don't have to wait until your hair gets wet to know you're drowning. You know if you're going to be late on something 9 times out of 10. Call your creditors them ahead of time. Don't wait until it gets late and then get that guilty feeling and you stick your head in the sand. Call before you're late, and that way they may be able to work out something that'll keep you from getting that late payment. And maybe they'll put it on a deferment. Maybe they'll put a payment on the back. A lot of companies will give you 1 month off during the course of a year. Ask your creditors before you get a late payment and really crush your score.
Tell us about the different credit bureaus. That's another thing that could be very confusing. I know you said earlier the FICO score, then Equifax, you got TransUnion. What are the differences in those scores versus your actual credit report?
I'm going to change the question a little bit, make it a little bit simpler. There's credit scores, and there's your actual credit profile. Your credit score is not necessarily as important as your profile. Your data is what your data is, all right? Whether it's TransUnion looking at it, Equifax looking at it, Experian looking at it, whoever's looking at your file is your file. Drew, but I got a score of this on Credit Karma, and then the internet says this, and the mortgage company said this. I know. They're all taking, whoever's looking at your credit is looking at it through their own glasses, so to speak, all right, through their own colored lenses. If you want a mortgage, they're looking at your FICO 5 score. It's still your same data, but they're looking at it in different ways. For a mortgage, they're looking at your FICO 5. You want to get a credit card? They're looking at FICO 8 score. Same data, but they're looking at it and everything's weighed a little bit different, okay? If you're looking for a car, it's FICO 2. You're looking for health insurance, your insurance, they're looking at a different FICO score. I'm not terribly concerned with which score we're looking at. I'm concerned with your data, because if we adjust and make sure your data is correct, then whoever's looking at it through whatever model is going to get a good, decent score. To take it a little bit further, there are a lot of people that will approve someone that's got a solid, filled out 680, and they'll deny someone with a real light 720. Why is that? Well, it's because they're looking at the actual report and seeing what you've done. They're seeing at your profile. I have lovely daughters, all right? They're 22 years old. They're still in college. I have crafted a great credit score for them. If you look at it, they're nice and they're in the high sevens, and it's great. They haven't really done anything. It's all authorized users on me and cards and things like that. Let's take me at 55 or something like that. I'm not 50, but I'm just saying a regular person that's lived a lifetime, and you've got a mortgage, you've got some cars, you've got cards, and so on and so forth. You're at a 680 or 690. That person will get approved before my lovely daughters and their higher score. Why? Because the profile is stronger. Rather than worrying about, well, what's TransUnion say? What's Equifax say? What's this one say? Well, my Vantage score, that's what Credit Karma gives you, Vantage score 3. Worry about your profile, build a solid profile, and the numbers will always fall into place.
That's really good. That was a good example that you just gave us right there. What are the best way we can set our kids up? Like you're saying that, your daughters have a beautiful credit score. And even though that history may not be as strong as somebody like yours with a mortgage and credit cards and whatnot, long history, but what are some common practical ways that we can start to prepare our children for financial education, financial literacy, but credit building, so that way they come off the ground running?
Some of the best things that we can do to get our kids set up, I always tell everybody that comes in here, some of the best things we can do to get our kids started with great credit, first off, is to have it as ourselves as parents. That's the first thing, because you can't teach what you don't know yourself. First thing you can do, educate yourself and put yourself in a position where you have it. Now you're able to bless the kids because you can tell them how to walk in life, all right? Credit's not very hard, all right? It's 5 things you need to worry about. That's it. Pay your bill, and I'll make them so simple. Pay your bills on time. That's credit. That's your credit history. That's 35% of your score. I'll make it simple. I'll make it like parables. Pay your bills on time. Credit utilization. Keep the amount that you borrow low on your credit cards. Pay them off in full if you can. That's 30%. All right. It's like we're taking a test in school, kids. All right. You got 35 and 30. Guess what? You're almost there. You're almost at a passing grade. All right. You want to work on types of credit. You know why? It makes you less risky. Who's riskier? Somebody that only knows how to do one thing, or somebody who knows how to do a lot of things all together? Well, I don't know if you know how to pay a mortgage, All you have is a credit card. So I can't give you as high a score as someone that has credit cards, a car, a mortgage. These are things you pick up through life, all right? So have varied types of credit and treat them well. That's going to give you a boost to your credit. Everybody's so concerned about inquiries. All right, inquiries are 10% of your credit score. Let's make it simple, though, so that somebody can understand. You don't want to be asking a lot of people for a lot of money all at once. It makes you think of it as risky. If I ask you for $20, you'll probably give it to me. But if you see me ask 10 people the same thing before I come to you, now you're wondering on. You're going to be a little hesitant.
Right.
That's risky
That's good.
behavior. All right. So watch the inquiries. Watch out for asking people for money. Age of credit just comes with age, man. That's the one thing I can't really help them out. Well, no, I can't help them out. And I'll show you how, but it all goes back to how risky you are. How many summers have I walked this earth? How many years have I had credit? Up and down. All right. I've done it for longer. So I'm less risky than my lovely daughters who just started building their profiles, right? Those are the 5 tenets that make up credit. Have it for a long time. You know, don't go asking for a ton of money all at once. The money that you do have, don't run up your cards. Pay them on time. And give it to- That's it. That's all it makes up to credit. So when you bring it down to something simple like that, that's something simple that you can teach the kids. If it's something touchable that you can do. When you have your credit great, once your kids get of a certain age, add them to your cards. That way you're giving them a history before they even have the ability to get cards on their own. My daughters were 16. I had them as authorized users on Amex cards. All right. That help adding kids as authorized users is an awesome idea. Awesome idea. It takes you no time to do, and it gives them great benefits. But now you have to make sure that the cards you add them to, that you keep in good stand. All right. You can't add them to something with late payments. Don't add them to anything that you ran the balance up on. Put them on some older cards that you may not use anymore. Those old beginner Capital One cards that you have sitting in the drawer. That's great to add them to. All right. Not necessarily your daily drivers that you're running the balances up on. If you want to know what age you can add the kids to, every card has a different age. When you get on the phone to add them, you can check. Some of them have no minimum age. Others, you have to be 16. Some you have to be 18. But you can always check with your card holder to find out.
Right. So we talked about kids, we talked about buying a house, even though you made it super simple, which I appreciate that. I appreciate the simplicity, but I do feel like it's still overwhelming for a lot of people. One of the books that I love that I was reading again was The Compound Effect. Basically meaning that nothing happens overnight. It's going to take work. It's going to take developing new habits, developing a new mindset, a new thought process. If we're looking 10 years out, what are some practical tips for someone that may be like 10,000, 20,000, $50,000 in debt with different accounts and cards and whatnot? What are some, I know you gave us 5 super simple tips, but what would step 1 be for someone coming to you? They're like, Drew, I got T-Mobile, I got Capital One, I got, Verizon, I got satellite TV. It could be overwhelming. Maybe they don't have the income coming in right now. What are some practical tips that you could give someone?
All right. No one's going to like my practical tips because it's going to change how
Sheesh.
you got to think. But I got my practical tips. I'll be honest, I got my practical tips from my mom. And I didn't realize the knowledge she was giving me until I got a little older myself. Live small. It's a problem that this society has right now. I'm not going to preach and teach, but we all want immediate gratification. We all want the brand new this, the biggest that. You got to
Hallelujah.
live. Yeah, no, hey, let's talk about it. You got to live. You got to live according to your wallet, man. You have to live according to your wallet. If you have the ability of doing that now, you'll be able to have whatever you want later. Okay. And it's something even I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Even I have mentors. All right. I went to, and this is funny because some of them are going to see this call and know who they are. You have a few investments, and I walk into the office and I'm all excited. Hey man, did you see what happened? Did you see it? Did you see it? Look at what happened to Bitcoin, or look what happened to Nvidia. And a fellow that has far more than I do. I'll just leave it like that. was like, didn't pay it any attention. You know why? Like, why? Everything I have, I just put into the S&P. I'm happy with my 7 to 10%, and I've made that over time for darn near ever. And I sat there and I had no answer for him. I'm like, you know what? You're right. People that are trying to get rich or solve their problems overnight wind up giving their money to the people that take the time to actually invest and do it slowly. If things happen when they're supposed to happen, take the time. Now to get back to the question that you really asked though, if I've got 50 grand in the hole, what's some actionable steps that I can do right now? That goes back to live small. First, if the answer is I can't make any more money, that would be the obvious answer. Try and make some more money, get some type of side thing going. Try and figure out some way of doing something, okay? But if that's realistic for you at this point, you've got to worry about your budget. Certain things are in there, I guarantee, that don't need to be in there. We don't need $8 cups of
They
coffee every
shouldn't be.
morning. I don't need to have an $800 car payment, all right? Cash cars exist. Water is free. I don't know. I don't want to say it like that, but you have to pare down what you have going out. It's not necessarily what you make. It's what you get to keep. And once you've figured out a way of freeing up some money somehow, you got to start knocking down your debts. If bankruptcy is not something we're looking at, and we have to actually pay down these debts, you want to look at them. And depending on your mindset, you can attack it in one of two ways. All right. If you've got a solid mindset, look at your cards, attack the highest interest rate first. Okay. Because again, when you look at that bill, if that credit card bill comes in as $300, 150 of it's probably going back to interest. All right, so we need to lower those balances down, lower the high interest cards so that we're spending less on our monthly payments. Make sense? If you're a little bit of a different mindset, okay, and you just want to see things completed, then great, start at the smallest ones first and completely pay them off. Boom. The more zeros you see, the more mentally motivated you'll be. You'll get more psyched up and continue to follow through with it and pay your cards down that way. Okay. Whichever mindset you need to take, the answer is always the same. You got to start paying back these people. Okay. You got to start paying them back. A lot of times, if you have a card and it can kind of see you're a little bit underwater, remember what we said earlier? Call your creditors. They don't want you to default. Call them. See if there's some type of an arrangement you can make. Amex is great for this. They'll put you on a program where they'll stop the interest and take away the yearly fees so that you have the ability of knocking your balances down, where all the money's going to knocking down your account rather than getting eaten up in interest. A lot of other card companies do that as well. You'll never know if you don't call and ask them. So ask. All right, there's a ton of ways that you can try to get your debt down. A lot of it starts with calling your creditors.
That's really good, Drew. Looking forward to doing a lot more of these because I don't even want to look at this as like a podcast today. I want to look at this as a credit repair masterclass, financial literacy class. My wife and I, we got married young. We were with a young couple that, they got married younger than us. And a lot of times you're young, you get married, and then the kids come. And before you know it, you're in your 30s and you're in debt and you're just trying to make it out. That's a lot of the clients that come to us that want to buy a house. But what are some resources for people trying to build credit that have no credit? I know that there's a lot of different platforms, credit karmas, but it becomes just overload of information.
All right. If it's something that someone's coming to me and they have no credit, I have no credit, I'm looking to try and get something started. Great. That's I like working with a clean sheet of paper every once in a while. All right. The first thing that we try to get people doing is secured cards, because if you have no score at all and you don't have a rich Uncle Lou to add you to as an authorized user and you're doing it all on yourself, then we got to get you started somewhere. Okay. There are a ton of credit cards that will offer you secured cards. Some of the names I always use Capital One. I'll use Discover. We've got a few other cards as well that'll start out with programs where it won't cost you an inquiry. Boom, it'll give you what you get. All right, I give out cards every day here. It's kind of funny. And the links that we give folks, they get what they can get. And what I mean by that is this: they'll give you the best credit that your report or your file will allow. Some people come into my office and they're just starting out. The same link that I'll give to you, they'll get a secured card. Great. It's a great place to start. Some people come in and they were looking to get a little bit of a tweak. A fella came in and got $8,000 last week. I'm like, oh, I was surprised even. The card companies want to give you business. They want to give cards to you. You just have to, you have to start where you start. So if someone's coming to me with nothing, I'm going to give them, I don't want to keep naming names, but I'll give them Capital One. I'll give them Discover. I'll give them Self-Lender. I love Self-Lender. I'm a huge fan of Self-Lender. That's one of these little apps
Okay.
that actually, reports on your credit report on all three, and it'll show
I'm
us if you're having
familiar.
a very small installment loan. I love Self-Lender. There's other
What
ones as
about
well, but
kickoff? Do
I'm
you
not a
recommend
fan of
kickoff?
Kickoff, my friend. Not a fan of Kickoff, and I'll tell you why. I've seen them. Kickoff is another one of these little fintech apps that, that shows on there that you're doing X, Y, and Z, and it makes it look like you have an installment loan. I've seen more people have mistakes and come back to me with, how did you charge off for $12? Well, I don't know. It was a kick. I'm just personally, nothing wrong with the company, but personally, I'm not a fan of Kickoff. Self-Lenders is my favorite when they're in that building state. I'm familiar. I'm familiar with it. I'm an old guy. I stick with what I know works. A lot of these fintech companies have come, and some of them have already gone already. I remember Tomo cards, and there's, Chime. Chime's picked up a lot of time. People think Chime's helping me build my credit. Chime is putting something on your credit. It's not really helping you the way you think it is, and I have to explain that to people. I won't knock anyone else's business. I'm also not going to jump after or condone something that just sort of popped up. I'm not a fan of when it seems like people are being, predatory to people to try to, when they're looking for ideas and answers. I'll reserve judgment. I'm not going to knock it. But the basics of credit are the basics of credit. When you get with someone, whatever company, be it mine, be it this one, be it that one, know enough to be able to ask some simple questions and listen to the answers you get. Are they just selling you sizzle on a steak? Or are they actually giving you some information that makes sense? Are they selling you a dream? Hey, give me $800 and all this goes away tomorrow. Or are they telling you something that makes sense? Don't let the fact that you may be in a little bit of a desperate situation or you need to get this house tomorrow. Things are going to happen when they're going to happen, guys. Make smart decisions. Do things that make sense to you. And that's going to keep you out of harm's way. Very simple. I'm easily found. You can go on the website, Trinity Solutions USA.com. I'm also on Instagram. You can reach me there, Drew FICO Pro. You can find me on Facebook. Hit me on a phone number, 609-422-97. Get text. Either way, shape, or form, if you reach out to me, what I promise is we'll give you a consultation, go through your credit report top to bottom, and we'll let you know specifically for you what steps need to be taken to get you where you need to be. And the most rewarding part of my job happens a lot of times when I wake up. I wake up to text messages from clients where they're either elated, hey Drew, I got this, I got that, because they wake up with their credit karma going off or whatever credit monitor there is, and they're very, very, very quick to share. 2 days ago, I get woken up by a client that was in a bad spot when he came to me. All right, I'll just leave it like that. We got him started. We cleaned up some things. We got him his first $500 credit card. He was happy for that. 2 days ago, he wakes me up. Drew, I looked on my credit card. I'm at $4,000. Did you do something? No, I didn't do anything. I just told you what to do. And you did X, Y, and Z. My goodness, I'm so thankful. $4,000 isn't a lot of money to a lot of people. There was a ton of pride that came from this guy. And it's all because we had a decent conversation. We taught him the guidelines of what to do. It helped him clear up a thing or two. But he continued living the right way. And now he's reaping those rewards. Those are the happy things that I have. I get calls all the time. We finally got pre-approved. Awesome. We moved in. Great. I've been invited to I don't know how many housewarmings. Great. That's awesome. But those small little texts where you can see that immediate excitement and gratitude, that's what makes all the arguments worthwhile. That's what does. Okay. To tie it up in a pretty bow. Long story short, every person that comes across here, walks in this door, hits my phone up, emails me, does whatever. Every single person is in the middle of a problem. They're trying to overcome something. They're trying to get to the next level. The answer is you can. It takes specific guidance, a few steps to follow. I tell everybody there's going to be a 1 or 2 peanut butter and jelly weeks, where you got to tighten your belt perhaps. But if you follow the play, you said a coach, you're right. We're credit coaches. That's really how I consider myself. I'm going to draw up the plays. I'm going to be the Belichick here, but I'm going to hand you the ball. And if you actually do what you're supposed to do, you're going to be able to get where you need to be. All right. That's a promise. All right. So I welcome anybody that has that type of issue. I don't know how I can do it. I don't know which way to go. I welcome you to give me a call, reach out, let's have a consultation, and let's draw up a proper path. Mhm. 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 I appreciate you bringing me on, man. I appreciate you. Thank you. Go Birds.